Does anyone here like pulling weeds? John, I'm surprised you're not raising your hand.
No, I don't.
Okay, I hate pulling weeds. I don't think anyone likes pulling weeds. But you do. Well, thank you. Does anyone here like beautiful gardens? Yeah? I like beautiful gardens, but it's really hard for me to enjoy them because there's bees everywhere. And I don't like bees at all. So if you want to have a beautiful garden, you have to pull weeds. What am I getting at here? Why am I talking about gardens and weeds? At this point, you probably think I smoke weed. Which could be true. What are weeds? Weeds are your fears, your insecurities, the garbage and all the crap that prevents you from having a beautiful garden, or in other words, a beautiful life. And you have 1,000 excuses to why you can't get rid of them. Maybe their roots run too deep. Maybe there's too many of them. And you tell me, Michael, I possibly could not do this. I cannot get rid of these weeds. And I'm here to tell you that you can. And you must. Because if you don't, they're going to take over your entire garden. They will take over your entire life. And what makes me an expert? I appreciate the cynicism, because if I was sitting in your position, I'd be thinking, who is this guy? Why does he think that I need to get rid of these weeds? What makes him such an expert on this? Well, I'd like to share a personal anecdote of mine, a personal story that will give you a sense of why I'm such an expert on this subject. Last year, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, which essentially means that the only thing you can find in my garden is weeds. They're everywhere. I'm somewhat of a weed expert, if you will. I want to give you a couple examples of what makes me such a weed expert. Growing up, I was afraid of eating a hamburger because I thought I would get E. coli. A pretty normal thing for an 8-year-old to think about, right? Growing up, I was afraid of using the bathroom at school because I didn't want kids to see my wiener. Made it hard to go to the bathroom. Growing up, I was afraid of dogs because one bit me in the, well, since we're in church, I have to change this word, bit me in the butt. And now some of these fears, they naturally decayed, but some, they don't die. They get stronger. And I was feeling absolutely strangled in my life with these weeds, and I decided I have to do something about this. I have to get out of the weeds. So I met a gardener who did not have weeds in her garden at all. And I asked her, "Why don't you have any weeds, ma'am?" And she says, "Michael, I get weeds. I pull them out of the ground as soon as I see one. I do not wait 26 years to do that." That made sense to me. It also hurt. She says, "Michael, I have a solution. I know what you can do to get rid of these weeds. What I want you to do is I want you to just find the smallest weed in your garden and just pull it out of the ground. Then I want you to find the next smallest weed and do that again. And I want you to keep doing this because when you do, you will gain confidence and you will get stronger. You will be able to uproot any weed in that garden, I promise you this." So I took this leap of faith and I believed her. And that night I booked a solo plane ticket to South Korea because I had to believe this was true. I had never traveled internationally before. I was afraid of flying. I was afraid of eating foreign cuisine and getting an incurable foodborne illness. So now you know which fears are still around. The people with the most beautiful gardens said, Michael, you are going to have a great time. The people with the most weed said, Michael, you'll die. I didn't know who was right, but I thought, if I die, I'm going to have the honor of knowing my garden looks amazing. So with that mentality, I went on the plane, and I was off to a completely different country where I would not know a single person. I wouldn't be able to read a single sign. I would not be able to ask someone if the food I was eating was cooked thoroughly. And ladies and gentlemen, I started uprooting weeds like crazy. I went on this flight and I just braved all this anxiety that I had. I thought we were going to get shot down by North Koreans. And then I realized that happened 30 years ago, but hey, it's still happening. And then we landed in Ichen Airport, which is this beautiful airport that's on these green islands. And we came out of the clouds, and I'm like, wow, I am so glad that I'm on this trip. I could feel myself just getting excited at the prospect of landing. And I realized, hey, I just uprooted a weed. That's pretty cool. So we land in this airport, and then I got to get to the hostel, and I can't speak Korean. And a guy comes up to me, he's like, you look really lost. And I was like, yes, I am extremely lost. He's like, the bus is over here. So I went over to the bus, got on the bus, made my way to the hostel, just kind of pointing in different directions, trying to get people to tell me where they are. I get to the hostel, there's 4 people there waiting for me on the steps of the hostel. A German guy named Manuel, who I've talked about before, an Argentinian woman named Pamelita, and then 2 American girls. I didn't get their names, unfortunately. But we went out and ate beef bibimbap, and I don't even know what beef bibimbap is. I've never eaten it before, and I was like, I'm going to enjoy this. I am going to enjoy this. I'm not going to worry if I'm going to die or not, because these people are going to think I'm a weirdo if I start asking questions. So I ate it, and I didn't die. And it was wonderful. It was awesome. Now, the following couple days, I met 30 people at this hostel. I met a Syrian woman. I never met anyone from Syria. I thought I knew everything about Syria because I watched the news. The news is wrong, folks. Syrian people are pretty amazing. I met the hostel owners, Brian and Gina. Brian was this guy who loved punk rock music. He said his favorite band was Green Day. I said, if you go to Seattle and say that, that'd be embarrassing. To say you still like Green Day. But me and this guy talked about punk rock music all the time when I was on this trip. And then I met Gina, who was married to Brian, and she was the hostel owner. And she talked about teaching me Korean words so I get more comfortable talking to people. So she taught me hello, which is 안녕하세요, and thank you, which is 감사합니다. And I practiced that about 100 times before I got that right. So I started using these Korean words and introducing myself to people and meeting people, and I realized, wow, just to introduce yourself to somebody from like a foreign country and have no insecurity about it eventually because you've done it so many times. And yet again, uprooting weeds. Later that night, I went to the park and I hip-hop freestyle battled with 2 Korean rappers in the park. And essentially what I said was just 안녕하세요 over and over again, because that's the only word I knew, which is just hello. And I thought it was hilarious. I mean, everybody was like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. No one booed me, and here I am uprooting weeds again. The next day, I felt like I was more comfortable navigating the subway after learning from Jasmine, my friend. She was from Singapore. She would always show me the map and where I needed to go, and I was like, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to see if I can do this. So I went to Bukasan National Park, and I don't know if you guys have heard of Bukasan National Park, but it's the biggest national park that's in a city. The entire city surrounds the park, and it's these beautiful mountains. And there's just green hills and grass. And I was like, I'm going to hike this. I don't know how to get there, but I looked at the map, and I said, I'm going to try. So I eventually made it. The wind was blowing, to say, like 45 miles an hour. And I was for certain that I was going to get blown off and die or something like that. But I made my way up the mountain, climbing up this rope. And there was an old Korean man waiting for me at the top. And he said, actually, I don't really know what he said. He offered me a cup of coffee, and we sat down and drank it together. And I thought that was pretty special. The following day, I went to the DMZ, which is the demilitarized zone. It's the North-South Korean border. Me and a Brazilian guy named Gabriel drove in a truck on a 25-mile road rigged with dynamite. It was rigged with dynamite just in case the North Koreans invaded South Korea, that the South Koreans could blow up the road. And I was pretty nervous. When we got to the border, we had to sign a paper that said, "It's okay if I got shot." I didn't get shot. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I got so used to pulling weeds that it became a habit for me. I could not stop. But then I had to go home. And I flew home on the rainiest day I've ever experienced, and that's saying a lot for coming from Seattle. And I thought, this is it. This is the end of my weed pulling career. I'm done. And then I decided, no, it's not. Because I brought my habit home, and I like pulling weeds. Because my garden it's pretty beautiful. Just this last week, I ate an underdone hamburger for the first time. Something I thought I would never be able to do. And today, I'm attending the naked bike ride, where everyone will see my wiener. My fellow Toastmasters, I'm not suggesting that you need to go to South Korea to face your fears and pull weeds. All you need to do is step into your own backyard, find the smallest weed you can, and pull hard. And I promise that if you keep doing that, if you keep pulling these weeds out of the ground, there will be none left. And nothing would make me happier than to hear about your beautiful gardens. And I promise when I get there and see them, I won't be afraid of the bees. Thank you.